Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tanya McKenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. Greetings, good people. Welcome back to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And today we're going to learn a little bit about love and marriage, how to actually stay in one. Listen, I have a couple here. They wrote this incredible book, right? Sharing their secrets, the Montgomerys. They're going to come talk to us about their long-standing marriage. I have a lot of friends, and some of y'all might be those friends, that went through some things in COVID too. COVID brought some babies, brought some divorces. Like it was a lot going on in COVID. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too, how they got through that. Listen, you can ask questions live if you happen to be watching live. I know my LinkedIn community usually watches live, but even if you are watching later, I want you to ask your questions because they will get back to you. They will get back to you. And it is important if you are in a marriage or want to be in a marriage or actually want to be in a marriage that doesn't end in divorce, that we have these types of conversations. And today we're lucky enough to have the Montgomerys. I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. Hello, good people.
Hello.
How are you? What's going on? Let the people know where you're at and what's good with you today.
All right. I'm Carita.
I'm Leon.
And so we're actually in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're pretty excited. We're coming off of the heels of our first TV appearance. We're on a national TV show that aired on Tuesday this week. Again, talking about our book, Just Dance With Me. There's a rhythm and flow to longevity and marriage. So that was super exciting. And then you want to tell them about the marriage retreat?
Yes, we had our first annual Stay Together Boo Marriage Retreat just a couple weeks ago, and it was phenomenal. We had 6 couples to participate in the marriage retreat, and we laughed, we played games, we learned how to dance, we learned how to communicate better and listen more. It was a great event.
I want to kind of expound a little bit on the dancing part, which was really cool, Tanya. So we had an instructor come. And so he is big on nonverbal communication in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So he started out teaching the men the dance first. And he said, if you want to be led, you got to know your part. If you want to be a leader, you have to know your part and you have to know your partner's part. So it was really cool. He said, I'm going to expose some marriages. I'm going to know women who don't know how to submit, and I'm going to know men who don't know how to go ahead and take charge. But it was so cool the way it all panned out. So I really, really, really would recommend, if you haven't done it, to do it. Our couples learn so much about each other through nonverbal communication. But we got the dance down at the end too.
What kind of dancing was it? And your instructor, was he hip hop? Was he jazz? Or is this a particular type of dance that kind of feeds off of energy or something like that?
I would say he teaches all type, but I would say it was more like a ballroom style dancing because the male had his arm out firm. The female placed her hand gently on top of his. The male had his arm around the female's waist, and he did that because he said when he moves his hand, that's a signal for you to make a certain kind of move. So I guess it was more ballroom. Ballroom. But we did it to hip hop songs. So we did it to update, Billboard top 40 songs. So it was cool.
Okay, I got questions, ma'am. I have questions. Now, listen, we'll get into some of the minutia, but I'm also an author, okay? And I know that writing a book is hard. I also know that couples can't always work together. So not only did y'all work together, you wrote a book together. Talk to me about that process.
You know what? I'm gonna let you talk about how it worked because we did not write together in the same room. And he had his way of writing. I had mine. So I'm gonna let Leon talk about his way of writing.
Yeah, my wife really pushed me to write this book. I mean, because at first I was fighting tooth and nail not to write this book, but she stayed on me, and I'm glad she did. But I'm a morning person, just like she is, but I like to have my own time. So when I got up early in the morning, I wrote my own parts. We were never in the same room or at the same place writing the book. We did our outline of the book and came up with our topics, and then we just wrote.
So I'm gonna tell you, Tanya, like some of his chapters, when I read them, just brought me to tears. Because some of the things that he admitted when he wrote his chapters, he had not admitted to me really, in person. And so it was a way for me to know that he was hearing me all along, but we had never communicated about it. So that part for me was really special. It was almost like when readers read it for the first time, some of those natural organic emotions, I got some of the same ones in some of his chapters. But I'm a book coach as well. So I've helped about 6 authors self-published. So I was the one that compiled everything. Once he gave me his sections, I would compile them together and put the manuscript together for the book. And then I send it out to my team for editing and all that kind of stuff.
People feel like once you get married, you should never get a divorce. But reading your book, I know that there have been difficult times. So what do you say to people that feel like no matter what, you should never get a divorce? You should always work through it no matter how bad it is. Or, hey, if it ain't working, and it ain't giving you, it's not feeding your soul and giving you what you need, then it's okay to be out. Like, I want you to address that.
Okay. So you want me? I know what your stance is. So I'll be perfectly honest. I retained a lawyer once, and I filed separation papers once, and the lawyer is so funny. When I did retain the lawyer, Tanya, I paid her the retainer fee, and the lawyer looked at me the whole time. Now I'm boohoo crying now, but I'm giving her a retainer for a divorce. She was like, "Are you serious right now?" She said, "I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold on to your retainer. And if you still feel this way in 2 weeks, give me a call. I'll deposit it and we'll start the process. Otherwise, come pick up your money. I'm not going to even keep your money." This is her. Like, she looking at me. She reading all the signs. She's like, I have dealt with wives and husbands, both who are like, okay, that's it. I'm ready. Don't even let the ink dry. Give me the piece of paper. She was looking at me. She said, yeah. Cause you don't want no. Okay, I hold on to it. She didn't even deposit. So I dialed her number. She had me saved in her phone, and she picked up the phone. She said, "Where do you want to meet? I got your money." And I just laughed about it to this day. So, thank goodness that the person that I contacted was that type of person that could read the signs. I didn't want a divorce, but I didn't like all of the things that were happening in the marriage. There was a
Like
lot
what?
a lot of arguing, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of just weeks and months of just not getting along, just not good at all. We had, calling the police, PTO.
Weeks and months. There are people that go through that for years before they even think about divorce. What happened? Weeks and months.
2014?
Yeah.
So like from January to May of 2014, that whole time was just toxic. It was real toxic. Silent treatment went on the entire time.
What triggered it?
It was actually triggered. We talked about this at the marriage retreat. So it was actually triggered. We have a daughter who was who was in entertainment. I'm not going to say semi in entertainment industry. And they had a lot of hours of development and where they would have to be picked up, and we would take turns dropping them off. It was a real rigorous schedule. But that particular day, he was assigned to pick them up because they had a performance that night. So he kind of got into it with the managers or the leaders of the thing, and it got out of hand. It spent out of hand to the point where he made a social media post about it, and it just really was bad. And so I'm okay with, working through and resolution with me and him, trying to figure it out. But when it involved my child, I just couldn't let it go. I was so like unforgiving about it, because I felt like she was unjustly pulled into it, because they punished her because of his actions. So, and so it was just like 5, 6, it might even been longer than that. It might have been like 8 months of it just wasn't good. In that 8 months, I did get an apartment. I had it for about a month and a half to 2 months before I even moved into it. I didn't tell him I went and did the application. I had gone to Rooms to Go and furnished 2 of the rooms for my kids and everything. And so I want to say it was Mother's Day weekend. It just was like a big blow up rather. And I was like, I'm going to go to the apartment. So he left to cool off. And when he left in that little period of time, little 2 hours, I just got the kids and I just went to the apartment. But it's a really, really blessed story about how he brought the reconciliation. So
I just want to ask him, because while you're telling this story, the look on his face is very like she was tripping. It's the look on his. So I don't even know if y'all resolved that in that moment. But my question to you is, to the missus, and actually to both of you, because I think this happens a lot in marriage. Okay, that one moment, it did it for you. That moment, it upset you. But was that moment outside of his character? And do we find ourselves knowing someone? It's like, I told you who I am, believe me. If that was something that was definitely a part of his character, why did it send you so far away? Do we not really accept people for who they are and really want them to change to who we want them to be? What happened in those moments? Like, it sounds like that's who he is, because his face was very much, this is definitely something I would do. And you were definitely not having it. But in totality, when you're talking about marriage, do you find that people are always trying to change the people that they're with to who they want them to be? And that's where big problems happen.
That's Tanya. Oh man, you're good. That's a very good question. So I think it was who he was, but I think I blew it up to be more than what it was. And I think it was more me being embarrassed. Like I was embarrassed. I was like humiliated. I felt like, I made it about me. Like, what are people going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? Instead of, like you said, giving him grace, that's who he is. It wasn't the end of the world, hindsight 2020, just looking on it. And I said at the marriage retreat, and it kind of brought me to tears. I said, I was always trying to check off boxes of what I thought people wanted from me. Go to school, get your degree, get married, have a house, don't color outside the lines. And that episode was like coloring outside the lines, like tremendously. And we talk about our bringing up, like we were brought up differently. I was brought up in a very, very strict Christian home, and he was brought up in a home where like cursing people out was the norm. So, to him, it was like, I did what I do because it's no big deal. And then for me, I've heard him act like that before, but it was like in public. Now it's about me. And so I'm cool now. We're cool. We're past it. And, I'm like, I give him grace. I give him grace. He's not perfect, and he ain't gonna never be perfect. He is who he is, but he's evolving. He's changing. He's working on him, and he wanted to work on the marriage, and he wanted the marriage to be saved, and he wanted us to resolve it. So he did a lot of work on him. Yeah. And when he came back to reconcile, it was so funny. I couldn't get him to go to church. And so when I first went and got the apartment and we went to church that following Sunday, look who car was already parked in the parking spot I know him to park in. He was already there. You know, every Sunday he was meeting us there. Like he was really, really, really wanting to make this work. And so I knew he was working on it. And I knew that both of us deep down inside wanted our family to stay together. I know we both really did want that, but it was just like, how do I like get him to like stop like I didn't want it to go any further, like the
Right.
behavior. So that was kind of one of the right ways I was like, okay, we just need to put it on pause for a minute.
How did you, sir, resolve that issue, like in your mind? Because clearly you were on two separate pages in regards to expectations, right? And I too have learned I expect my husband to be who he is, all of who he is, all the time. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly at this time. But it has taken a long time for me to say, this is who he is. But I love him. I love all of him, even the parts of him that I might not agree with, because that makes him who he is. So I would love to hear from you, Leon, how you resolved that in your mind, that you needed to change, or that you had work to do and you were willing to do that. Like, because it's hard to acknowledge too when we have things to work on. I have some incredible toxic traits. I actually would love to hold on to some of them because I think they protect me. But I digress. It's not healthy. So I will work on them. At the same time, I would love to hear from you how you came to the conclusion that, yeah, I probably need to work on this. And I'm willing to do it because my marriage is at stake.
Yeah, I had to look in the mirror, and and I know I brought a lot of toxic behavior to the marriage and to our family. And so, I had to work on me first, in order to, strengthen my marriage and keep my marriage strong and, keep us together. So I seek counseling, and I'm doing individual counseling, and I've learned some things about myself that, that exhibited from my childhood. As my wife stated earlier, I grew up in a household where there was violence on a regular basis. It was daily. I got in trouble at school, or I got a phone call from school. It's going to prompt me getting a whooping. So, and that's what I in my mind, I didn't want to raise my kids that way, but inadvertently, that is exactly what happened. I was doing the same thing to them as I was doing that was done to me when I was growing up. And so once I started, working on myself, I asked my wife to come to counseling. So we started going to counseling again. So this took well over a year to get this, this ball rolling, to strengthen our marriage. But my wife can tell you though, divorce was never an option for me. I was going to do whatever it takes to keep my family together. God had blessed me with this family, my wife, and most people look at marriage as a contract, but, it's a covenant with God. And so I didn't want to, disappoint him. So he was allowed me this family. He blessed me with this family, and I want to keep this family.
So while she was like, yep, going to file these papers, you was like, yo, whatever.
Yeah, I wasn't hearing it. Even with the PTO.
Go on, file them papers.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to call her, text her, anything, and I was doing all of that. I was calling, texting, writing poems. I was doing whatever it took. So yeah,
writing poems. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so listen, people romanticize marriage. I truly believe that. That's why a lot of marriages wind up in divorce, because you've romanticized what this union is supposed to look like, what this friendship turned lover relationship for life is supposed to look like. Oh my God. And they pay so much for the wedding, and we're going to do it. We're going to have these kids, and life is going to be amazing. But we all know, those of us that have gone through it, there are some amazing points in marriage. There are some moments that you will never give back. But there are also moments where you realize there's work that needs to be done. What do you say? And do you guys do any premarital counseling? But anybody that's considering marriage, how do you get them to recognize this is not what you see on TV? Do not romanticize this. Actualize it.
That's exactly when we wrote the book, Tanya, we were like, okay, we didn't have a blueprint. And we both grew up in single parent homes. And so what do you do when you don't have anything to follow? You don't have a template, you don't have a blueprint, you don't have anything to follow. We were just kind of trying to figure it out as we go. So both of us said when we wrote the book that if you're not married yet, you need to read this book because these things need to be discussed. Finances, disciplining the kids, submission, church. Yeah, where are you going to worship? It was like all this stuff needs to be discussed ahead of time because these are things that people get divorced about every single day. But then we also wanted those who are married and about to throw in the towel to say, well, wait a minute. We can turn this around based on what they're showing us in the book. There's a turnaround moment too, where is it actually worth it? Is it worth all of the pettiness, the arguing, the fussing, the fighting? And we decided that no, it was not worth it. I had one kind of aha moment. We were carpooling in one of our seasons, and we were going to work that morning, and we had a disagreement. But I looked over at Leon where I thought he was just angry, and I looked at his eyes, and they were tearing up. And I said in that moment, it's not coming from a place of anger; it's coming from a place of fear. And I felt the fear that was coming from him, and I said, "Okay, no more." I got quiet. I decided to leave the topic alone, and then I started being more conscious about moments when I know that he was expressing fear through being loud and the cursing and all that. I was like, it's fear-based. So I started in those moments calming down, going to rub his back. Is everything okay? Let's talk about it later. Won't even, let's squash it. And then I came after the pandemic, and we should talk about what we did in the pandemic. No more going to bed angry. I don't go to bed angry. I don't care how big the argument is. No more will I close my eyes and go to sleep angry.
My husband will go to bed angry, and then I won't let him sleep.
Yeah. Listen, he know if he trying to pull it, Tanya, I'm over there kissing on the ear. I'm hugging. I'm doing everything. I'm like, we ain't going to bed mad. And finally, he's like, okay, he'll give into it, but no more going to bed angry. No, I'm done with that.
So listen, one of the things that I learned about myself is what does not feel good, right? So when something does not feel good, I have to resolve that within myself. I don't even need someone else to tell me like, you're tripping, whatever. Like, I know when I'm acting up. I know when I'm on one, and I need to deal with that. How do you know when it's you and not your partner? How do you recognize, I need to fix this?
For me, I can't sleep. Like, I'm a thinker. So when I know the thought is just rolling, I replay the scenario over and over and over in my head, and I look at every point and aspect of it. I'm like, okay, you wasn't right. You wasn't right. You said it wrong. I may have been right, but I said it all wrong. I approached it wrong. I came with the wrong attitude. And I'm at the point now where I can say, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm the first one to pick up I text a lot because I want to get my point across. So I'll text, and I will even send an email. But in the email, I will apologize, and I'll recognize the point where I went wrong. And he'll pick up the phone and call me. He might have walked out silent treatment, but once he read the text and the email, and I go ahead and admit my part in the where it went wrong, he will immediately say, okay, she confronted it and she admitted it. Let's move forward. But I didn't do that in the beginning. And, I'm standing my ground, and he was standing his ground, and nothing was getting resolved.
What about you, Liam?
I look at it with, when we argue and, we have these fights, and we just keep having these fights. I'll start to have to look at myself again. What did I do, to cause this argument or this situation again? Because it just seems like it just keep repeating itself. And so once I realized, I was part of the problem, I need to start listening more, and be an active listener, not just hear all these words and the screaming and yelling that's just coming out of her mouth, but actually hear her and be able to respond, more effectively and compassionately.
Do you find yourself, now that you have acknowledged and started dealing with some of this stuff from your childhood, that you also have a different relationship with the people in your family that may have been a part of these problems?
I do.
Like, talk to me about that.
I mean, I love my family, and and they now older, and they understand that some of the things that I have gone through. Again, we thought it was normal because that's the way we was raised. But I don't hold any of that against my family because they had to learn that from somewhere as well. And back then, what goes in your house stays in your house, and we were taught not to talk about anything that was outside of our house or outside of the family dynamics. So I don't hold no ill will against my family or certain relatives that that was a part of that. But we communicate, and now we actually sit back and talk about these things, and now we know how we should have reacted or how we should have done things back then.
So, does the things that you have worked on with your wife, like your temper or maybe your communication style and things of that nature, do you also use those same tactics when dealing with your family?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Are they receptive of that? Like, are they receptive of, this is what happened, this is how it damages us, I'm trying to fix it, maybe you should too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they might not be that receptive. I go far and say that. Yeah.
But
That's a good point, though.
I will say one time I just was like, you need to just apologize to your brother. Him and his brother were like, had not talked in probably about a year or so.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying, just be the bigger person. You reach out. You just right. And so finally he said, I'm going to do it. And he reached out to him. I don't know if it was a text message or what. And I think he came around and y'all kind of talked through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked and, we worked out some issues. But, I try to keep him involved, with my kids and what we're doing here as a family. But he's on the road a lot, too. He's a truck driver. So, it's kind of hard to keep up with him. But, I like the fact that, we're talking again. I would like to see him more. But, yeah, we're definitely talking, though.
I love that for you. So what happened in COVID? Do tell.
Oh, okay. Well, COVID, that was... Well, it was a blessing in disguise, believe it or not. Fortunately, I was able to work from home due to COVID. So I was working from home, but my wife worked in the hospitality and she had to go to work every day. So she would come home, she's stressing, she's complaining. I got to get up and everybody's home in bed still and blah, blah, blah. So, I absorbed what she was saying, especially her feelings. And so about a week or so later, I started making sure I would cater to her when she come home. So, I would have a glass of wine or, I might have some music playing. I might have went out, got the grill going, got some meat going. And so we're just having a good time. So when she comes in, that our good mood wouldn't allow her bad mood to infiltrate what we had going on here in the house. And so I kind of turned it into a backyard oasis. And, she would just come in, throw her bag down, get her wine, and she's automatically relaxed. So basically, that's really how this book was birthed, from our backyard party.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Miss Della? What were your thoughts on COVID and what that moment was for you all?
So, actually, my love language is quality time, Tanya. So my husband loves sports. So he would frequent sports bars and want to hang out through all different sports. His sports of choice is football, but he likes all sports. So he always wanted to, be at sports bars and things of that nature. So once COVID shut down, he was forced to be home with us. But I love that. I love the fact that we sat around, we talked, we laughed, we danced in the backyard party, watched movies. We even started cooking. We started doing like cooking challenges with the kids. I mean, just so much quality time. And for me, I'd rather that. You don't have to buy me a Chanel purse, a Gucci purse, all that. I really don't care. But the quality time for me is so much bigger. And during COVID, we had that, and I was excited about it. And the backyard party that he started was just like the icing on the cake. We really say we fell in love all over again. We like fell in love all over again. The conversations, the late night talks, the spending time together. It was definitely a blessing for our marriage.
So I realized that during COVID, when a lot of people were miserable, we too were ecstatic. Like it was a moment where we were just able to take the break that we probably had needed all this time. We have 4 kids. So one of them was home from college. He had came home for, I think it was Thanksgiving or something, and then just never went back. Okay, there was that. And then the younger ones, when they started back to school and then they were online, we got the first part of that was kind of wonky, but then it just became really about quality time and conversations and fun times. We worked out together. We had a good time. I had a lot of naps.
Oh, yeah.
Naps are amazing. They're underrated. Baths are amazing and underrated. Being able to read books from beginning to end is underrated. So all of these things we found so much pleasure in. But that's what happens when you actually like the people that you live with, love, and raise.
Yes.
So I just applaud you all for taking a moment to indulge in that. So for the people that have these households and these families that they have built with love and patience and like-mindedness, it was actually not a bad thing. So I find myself feeling bad about the people that feel like they were shunned or suffered or slighted because of COVID.
Yeah, we too. We had so much joy, so much bliss, so much happiness. Our oldest daughter wasn't here because she had moved away to Florida. But our younger 2 were here, and we were all home together. So during the day, they would even be in the backyard with us. Prior to COVID, I had not spent not one day in the backyard, not any time in the backyard. And after COVID and he started the backyard party, the kids wanted to hang out there with us. So, and then at night they would go in and we bought the screen so you can do movie on the green. We were watching movies outside with blankets. Like, who would have thought that we would have been doing that? And it was so amazing. And even once COVID ended, he started date night, Friday night date night. He was like, even though COVID is over and we can get out the house he's intentional about every Friday's date night. So regardless of what's going on or what we're doing, we're going to make sure that we spend that time doing date night. Because we enjoyed each other so much during COVID, we wanted to continue that.
I love that for you. We do the same. Fridays are usually our only nights. We don't have practice and the kids are doing their own thing. So we do Friday nights also. And sometimes we do it with couples, but most of the time it's just us. We explore new places, new foods. It's always a good time. So my question to you before we let you go is your best advice to couples that seem to have run into that moment where the honeymoon phase is over. What next?
I would say the honeymoon phase should never end. Date your spouse. Don't let the fire burn out. We both like to travel and we have very similar tastes when we travel. And we have similar personalities. So we even started doing staycations where we would just go locally to a hotel. I happen to have worked for a hotel chain and had some privileges there. But even if we stayed locally, we would go and we would treated like we were out of town. Like we just continue dating each other, continue the communication. That's one of Leon's things.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pieces right there. Communication. Got to be able to talk. Find a way to communicate without the arguing, without the profanity, without emotions running high. Those type of things. And
profanity for you is like that's like your thing, huh? It's like stay away from the profanity. For some people, that's their second language. I speak English,
mine, but I've gotten better at it. And thankful for my wife and my kids. They keep me in line. I ain't saying I'm exempt from it at all, but
I don't expect that from you, sir. I don't.
And because you touched on this earlier about being who you are, that's one thing about Leon. Leon don't pretend to be nobody other than Leon. That's the only person I know how to be is Leon. And
I think it's important that we are okay with who we are and okay with who we said we love. Like, I love that person. That is who I'm married to, not the potential of that person. Like, that's what kills me. Like, I'm marrying his potential. Like, girl, what? Stop.
But yeah, at the same time, you got to be willing to, improve thyself, in every way,
All right, I got to get in your business real quick, or at least get this advice for those out there that seem to be struggling with sex after the honeymoon phase. So what did you come up with for that? Because I got friends that do it once and twice a year, and I would shoot myself.
I don't think I can be around.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna go ahead and say this piece of advice, and that's probably one area that we did not have any issues or problems with.
You still don't,
and we don't have any issues or problems with. But I'm gonna tell you about. He makes sure that I'm satisfied first, and that's always been like the rule. And I don't know, what nobody else do in their bedroom and what how husbands approach it, but that's always been his rule. And then that made me want to just satisfy him even more. So that to me is
listen. No, I literally have friends that have sex maybe once a quarter, twice a year.
No way.
What are we telling these people?
It's
like they live with they have sex occasionally with their roommate. It's weird.
And it's probably because they don't like each other. They don't know how I mean, that's probably it. They don't get pleasure in it anymore. That could possibly be it.
So is that then when we go for the divorce or what? Like what are we telling them?
You got to work that out. Yeah. That's got to get worked out. You got to go seek some therapy, something. That little piece got to be worked out. You got to fix that before you can fix anything else.
Again, it's communication. You got to be able to talk. Find out what she desires, what he desires, what he dislikes and don't. Okay,
well, when she does not desire what he's offering, or the other way around, then where are we?
What's the compromise?
And I think it's okay for women to tell him what you like. Tell him what you don't like. I think it's okay to have the conversation. I don't think there's anything wrong with initiating sometime if you're the woman. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that. And so luckily for us, it's always been good. But I'm gonna tell you when the separation happened, we weren't having sex, and that was causing him to be more irritated, and that amplified things. And so and I knew what I was doing. I knew the holding back. I knew it was pissing him off, and so that's when it was.
So you were being an antagonist on purpose.
Yeah, that was one of my toxic traits, and so I yeah.
And a silent treatment.
And just I knew what I was doing, but
okay. So I think everybody is in a position to say, acknowledge who you are while we're running around criticizing our spouse, our mates. Sometimes we have to look at ourselves, right? And get that together. So let the people know where they can get, where can I get this book? Where they can get this book from, and how they can stay in contact with y'all, because I think you're having another retreat, yeah?
Yes. So you can get the book. Of course, we're online. So Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, eBay.com, all of that. Or if you want a signed copy, you can contact us on our social media channels. I'm under Carita Montgomery, just like it is on the screen. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And then Leon is under his name, just like it is on the screen, Leon Montgomery. And he's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, TikTok as well.
You guys have separate TikTok accounts?
Yeah, we actually are in the process of doing joint accounts on all social media pages. So our podcast is called Lee. He's Leon, and Riri. I'm Carita. So we already have the YouTube joint account is the Lee and Riri podcast. So that's already joint. And then we're about to do the rest of our accounts joint. But follow us on all social media channels. And we just did the marriage retreat, but we are being already requested to do it again. So it's going to be in May again, May of 2025. It's going to be here in a suburb of Atlanta, Chateau Elan this year. So we're going to take it up a notch, and we're going to open registration for that very, very soon. And then anything else?
No. Just Dance With Me, the book. Go copy.
I love it. I want to thank you guys for being here, for spending time and sharing some of the more intimate details of your marriage, but most importantly is sharing advice for those that really want to get married or stay married, how to make it work, and some introspective things about how we can, start solving some of these problems ourselves when we take a look at how we're contributing to them. So I definitely want to thank you guys for that. Wish you well and let you know you're always welcome back here to Leaders and Learners. So keep us posted on the next retreat, or if you guys wind up in California.
Okay, I will.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.